Hello, I'm Sarah Cordiner and you're watching my webinar on finding your professional purpose and your business niche. Today we're going to go through some of the techniques that you can start using to begin to uncover what your particular strengths and natural niche are that perhaps you can commercialize and turn into your passionate career. There are some ways that you can stay in touch with me. I'd love you to join my community on Facebook by typing in Sarah Cordiner. I also have an Own Your Niche Facebook group for entrepreneurs called You Are What You Niche. Now, sometimes in life we can find ourselves happily coasting through, knowing exactly what we're doing and where we're going. And then other times we can find ourselves all of a sudden up against a brick wall or a dead end or a crossroads, and we just don't know where we're going. We feel stuck, we feel confused, and we find ourselves questioning what on earth it is that we're doing and what on earth it is that we're actually here to do. Now, one of the things I really want to point out as part of this webinar, if you take one thing away, it really is this, is that today is not the last day of the rest of your life. And it's funny how we often tend to assess our life and how successful we are based on where we're at today. And actually that's a really unfair way of assessing ourselves and puts very undue pressure on who we are and where we're going. Because actually life is not about getting from A to B. And we shouldn't be putting pressure on ourselves for being somewhere or not being somewhere. Because actually the whole point of life is simply about being. It's all just a journey. And we are in control of how we live and experience that journey, because it doesn't actually end until the lights really do go out. We find ourselves questioning our ability to achieve certain things. We ask ourselves why we don't have X and why we haven't achieved Y. But the funniest thing is that more often than not, we actually haven't defined what X and Y actually are. And I hope in this webinar we can start to think about what that might be for you. Now, interestingly, if you drive a car, would you be driving it constantly and only staring at the sat-nav? No. If you were going on a hike over mountainous terrain, would you only be reading the map? Obviously not. Now, when it comes to planning our life, more often than not, we think we have to see the whole entire map. We feel like we have to know exactly what roads we're going to turn down, when we're going to turn down them. We feel like we have to see the end destination and all of the signposts along the way. But actually, that's really not the reality of it. In fact, to find our purpose and find our niche, we need to understand that it's a constant evolutionary process. We have to understand that every single step of our journey is part of building where the next part will go. That in fact there isn't a future turning until we've got through the next part. That every single place we are at now is a progression from where it is that we've actually been. So all we need to do is set the compass, point it roughly in the right direction. And by that I mean the direction that simply feels right now. And then slowly start taking steps towards that direction and constantly and regularly look up, assess where we're at and decide whether or not we need to change our course accordingly. Just like we would when driving a car, just like we would when going on a hike. We'd be taking in the weather, we'd be taking in other people and obstacles around us. We'd be looking at the speed that other people around us are travelling at, and we'd change our course accordingly. So that's all we need to do when it comes to uncovering our purpose, is take small steps, gather information, and reassess what the next step or the slight adjustment to our course actually needs to be. So finding our professional purpose is all about finding where this special sweet spot is in the middle. So I'd encourage you to, if you're watching a recording of this, either pause now or come back to this question at the end of the webinar and write down what all of your interests are. Now, this could be things that you loved doing as a kid as much as you'd love doing right now. So think back to all the things you really enjoyed doing when you were a child. Think of all of the things that time just disappears and vanishes away when you're doing. And really think outside of the career box right here. Really just think of anything that you enjoy to put your hand to. Think about your personality. Think about, whether you like to work under pressure with other people, on your own. in teams, what kind of environment you like to be in. And then think of your skills and abilities. What kind of competencies and knowledge do you have? What kind of capabilities have you picked up over your lifetime? And the spot in the middle then is where you explore what kind of roles or functions may incorporate all of those. Because when you've found a career or a life role that actually includes all of those, that is when you have found that magical sweet spot. So talking about what's in the middle, this brings me on to Mr. Stephen Covey. So for those of you who haven't heard of him, one of the greatest thinkers in being successful. And he has a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in that book, he has one of his beginning chapters is all about beginning with the end in mind. And by this he means know what direction it is that you're going in. Like I said, set the compass and know roughly which way to go. And to do this, we need to be guided by the compass itself. And that compass is our values, is our core inner values. They are the things that drive us and direct us. They are the things that drive all of the things we do stuff for, all of the things that we do stuff to avoid, because it's all about either attaining things that are in relation to our values, or about avoiding things that threaten our values. So he takes you through an exercise which I will go through very roughly, but I really want you to, again, take time after this webinar to write down what your values might be in accordance with this exercise. And the exercise essentially walks you through the scenario of going to attend a funeral. You walk through the gravel pathway up the church, you walk into the church, you're walking down, you hear the music, you smell the flowers, you see everybody in their black funeral clothes. And as you're walking up to the front of the church, you notice that you start to recognize a lot of the people in the room. As you walk to the front, you pick up the eulogy book and you realize that this funeral is your own. And Stephen Covey then asks you to think about what might be in that eulogy. If you've come to the end of your journey, like I said, which is the day the lights finally go out and no time before, write down what you would like the following people to say about you. What kind of person were you? What kind of strengths did you have? What difference did you make? What impression did you leave? So think of a family member and write down all of the things you would like them to say. Not what you think they would say. What things, if you lived your life perfectly, if you did everything you wanted to do, what would that family member say about you when you're gone? And again, do the same for a colleague. What kind of colleague were you? What kind of person were you to work for or work with? And the same for a friend. And also, finally, what would your wider community say about you? Again, what would you like them to say if you lived a life of purpose? Now, the things that you come up with and write down as part of this exercise are what are your core and key values. These are the things that are part of what's important to you. And these are the things that you need to be thinking around your purpose and your career. What is it that I can do to ensure that these values are met? How can I ensure that these happen? And there's a number of ways you can make those happen. So once we've got a little bit of an idea about our core values and the fact that these are driving us, then we need to start thinking about where is it that they are actually driving us to. And this brings me to the question of what is success? Now, there are thousands and thousands of different answers to this question if you type it in the internet. And the reason for that is because success is something uniquely different for every single person. Now, interestingly, many of us go off striving for this success thing. We go off chasing for it our whole entire lives. And actually, we've never spent the time to sit down and question and write down in black and white and define exactly what that means for us. Somebody once asked me this question and I was completely stumped. I had no idea, and I had a business for years and I'd been chasing success for years. And when I was actually asked the question of, yes, but what is it? I found myself actually unsure how to answer it, and therefore, how could I possibly ever end up there? This is really important for us to get this question right. One of the worst things we can ever do is wake up one day and realise we don't even know what it is that we've been searching for. So let's get this right from today. Need to think about, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like for you? What kind of life will you have? What are you actually looking for, and what do you desire? What kind of lifestyle will you have? What level of health will you have? How much money per month will you have? You can't just say success for me is having wealth. How much wealth? How much per month? These are the questions you really need to be answering. Most people never stop to answer the question, and therefore that's why most people end up actually not getting anywhere. So I've got your first activity for the day, and this is what I call the life audit. Now, first thing I'd like you to do is write down the 8 most important areas of your life. Now, this can be absolutely anything, and it's completely unique to you. Some examples might include your family, your children, your relationships, your friendships. It might be your health. It might be your hobbies. It might be your sports. It might be your self-esteem, your physical appearance. I don't know. They could be your career. It could be your business. Whatever it is for you, write down the 8 most important areas of your life. Once you've done that, I'd like you to then be very, very honest with yourself. I would like you, next to each of those areas of your life, to score them 10 out of 10, or score them out of 10, with how satisfied you are with that particular area of your life. So 10 being absolutely satisfied and 1 being not satisfied at all. So go through them all and score out of 10 how satisfied you are with that area of your life. So what this will begin to show for you is very clearly which areas of your life are doing okay and which areas of your life you really need to start focusing on and working on. Sometimes you can notice that if there's just one of those areas of your life improved, how it would actually lift and improve all of those areas of your life. So that will give you some really good ideas about the direction that you may start traveling in next. What this essentially does is enable us to pinpoint and figure out where we are on the map as a starting point. But just figuring out where we are isn't quite enough, because that just tells us where we are. It doesn't help us with where it is that we're actually going. So there's another step to this. Now, this will start helping us figure out exactly where it is, the direction, what the destination will feel like when we get there. Because only when we know what the destination will look and feel like and what kind of experience we'll have when we get there, will we know when we've actually arrived. So next to each of your key areas of your life, I'd then like you to write down as clearly and specifically and as measurably as you can exactly what you will have, be and do and smell and be experiencing when you have 10 out of 10 in that area of your life. It's 10 out of 10 that we're all striving for. And when we don't feel like we've got 10 out of 10, that's when we're unhappy and discontent. But sometimes we don't actually know what it is that 10 out of 10 is. Now, when I first did this exercise, I found myself writing 1s and even 0s for some of the things that I put as important in my life. And when I realised how simple they were to get 10 out of 10 by writing it in black and white, all of a sudden it felt so much more attainable and I felt so much more in control of my life. So if one of your areas is physical health, for instance, what I'd like you to do is write down what will 10 out of 10 actually be. Is it a particular size dress you'll be wearing? Is it a particular distance that you'll be able to run without running out of breath? Really write that down. Is it that you just simply go to the gym a certain number of times a week? Write down now what your 10 out of 10 would be, and if I was an auditor and came to your life as an examiner to check that out, what is it that I would have to actually see in place in order to mark you 10 out of 10? So here's the best thing about this exercise, is not only does it point us in the right direction as to what areas we need to start focusing on, what it also does is tell us explicitly what things we need to do in order to make 10 out of 10 happen, i.e. exactly what methodologies and strategies we need to start putting in place and putting in our diary to actually achieve what we are defining as success. It tells us what we need to start doing, and it tells us what we need to stop doing. And this is the key to moving forwards in the right direction. Now, one of the other things I want to point out here is that change does need to happen. In order for us to be moving forward, we constantly need to be moving onto new ground. Now, I always say that normality is the enemy. Because if you're on a journey towards success, if you're on a journey towards a particular destination and everything around you starts becoming normal and familiar and international time zones can be set to your lunch break, then guess what? You've been there too long. And that means you're not moving forward. So if you find things starting to become normal and you still are looking around and doing your life audit and realizing that not everything's 10 out of 10, then you've stayed stagnant for too long and you need to be moving forward into new ground to get towards that success destination. So what is it that's actually stopping us? Now, there can be a number of things, and one of the main points is that we all actually have this internal barometer or thermometer that tells us when to stop and when to go. It's actually there by nature to protect us. It protects us from harm, and it protects us from uncomfortable situations. It protects us from stress and anxiety. And, our body doesn't want us to feel stressed. It doesn't want us to feel anxious. And naturally, change makes us have and experience those emotions. So this barometer that's set inside us thinks it's protecting us from this fear and this anxiety that's caused by change, but actually all it's doing is trapping us in normal. It's trapping us where we are right now. It's putting walls around us when we're stuck in this maze, in this dead end or this seeming crossroads, and it's stopping us from moving forward and progressing to where it is that we want to go. So we need to find a way of silencing that barometer, or at least recognizing when it's stopping us and trying to keep us safe. One of the other things that stop us moving forward and achieving our definition of success and living our professional purpose are something called our life scripts. Now, life scripts basically is a theory that tells us that our life is kind of set out for us. According to this theory, by the time we're 10 years old, we have already decided exactly what kind of life we'll have, what kind of job we'll have, what kind of marital status we'll have, what kind of world and existence we'll have for ourselves. And we have decided this according to the experiences and language and words that have been used by our parents and by our caregivers when we're younger. By the words and language that they used. You're a good boy, you're a clever boy, you're going to be so smart one day, when you're married, when you go to college, or you're so stupid, you'll never amount to anything. All of the different words and languages that are used as you're a child actually start writing for you the script or the play of life that you then take on board and start acting out without even realizing it. Subconsciously, you take on that character and you perform your life as if in a play. Now, the beautiful thing about life scripts is that we actually didn't write them ourselves. They were written for us. And just like the director of any film, we actually have the power to pick up the pen, rub out or cross out what's there, what we don't like, and rewrite that script in accordance with what we do like. Because if that script that is written for us tells us that we cannot achieve X, Y, and Z, and we're not capable enough of having X, Y, and Z, then the likelihood is that our subconscious will stop us from going for that because it's told us that we can't have it. So we need to figure out what our life scripts currently are. What are those things that were told to you or programmed into your mind? Unprogram them, rub them out, rewrite them, because the fact is they were simply opinion that was placed upon you by other people and are absolutely not fact or determinant of what it is that you can personally achieve. What else can stop us is a combination of our life scripts and this internal barometer, which is our excuses. And the excuses simply come about into our minds because this is our body and our instincts actually trying to protect us from this fear and this anxiety. We try to come up with reasons of why we shouldn't do it and why we shouldn't push through to, again, protect us from taking this particular leap. Now, excuses can obviously be absolutely limitless, but one of the main ones that I do hear from entrepreneurs is, well, you know, it's the wrong economic time. My customers aren't buying right now, or I don't have the resources I need, or I don't have the money I need, I don't have the office I need, rah, 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 rah. The list goes on and on and on and on. All they are excuses. Now, I have started a business 3 times in 3 different countries with absolutely nothing every single time. Now, believe me when I say I am no special person, I am certainly not unique in any way, and I definitely have no more advantages than any other startup business actually has. It's just passion and a desire to achieve something, and that is all you need to begin anything. So stop allowing your excuses that are coming from this internal barometer and these life scripts to stop you having what you deserve to have. And the other major barrier is people waiting for the epiphany. Now, one of the things I really want to bring home is that epiphanies are lies. They are complete and utter bonkers and rubbish. You know, Steve Jobs didn't just invent the Mac computer. The most successful products and businesses didn't just pop up in somebody's head when they were sat on the toilet one morning. These things just don't happen. You don't just go to the tax office and ta-da, this perfect business has just appeared on paper and suddenly comes to fruition the next morning. Every single successful business, every single successful person, and every single successful product is the result of years and years and years of progressive evolution. It's the result of collective learning that's come about, again, over years of experience, of learning, of gathering new knowledge, of knowledge being built upon knowledge, of being built upon knowledge. These are all the things that create success. It is a journey. It's a constant evolution and progression. It is not something that just magically happens. And the only way that you are going to find your niche is if you start understanding this concept right now. Stop waiting for this magical moment to fall upon you and give you all the answers to your life. It just doesn't happen. It won't happen. And you'll end up one of those old people laying on a bed wishing you just started once upon a time. Please don't let yourself be that person who is waiting for this perfect moment, this perfect situation to occur, and this perfect idea to arrive. It won't happen like that. The only way it will happen is if you do something. You do not have to know what your niche is. You don't even have to know what your topic or industry is. Believe me, when I began, I just started doing something. And what happens is when you're doing things, along the way, you pick up more information. You learn more stuff. Things you don't even know exist yet will start to appear, and you'll start to realize that there are other little sub-journeys that you can go on along the way. And that just starts creating this new pathway for you. And like I say, it's not only the journey, it's the journey that creates the destination for you. So enjoy the little steps and stop waiting for this magical moment that's not going to help you. Just do something right now. So we've got to take control and start driving our ship to take us to the destination we want to go. So I'm going to show you another little exercise or theory here that's going to help you understand the importance of taking control. So what we're going to talk about today is the importance of control, and in particular where your remote control is. Now, we all look at life through our own lens. We all look at the world from our own particular bubble. Now, locus of control is all about the degree to which we believe that we are in control of our own destiny. And according to this theory, there are 2 kinds of people. So let's talk about these 2 kinds of people. Now, like I said, we all see the world from our own bubble, from our own lens. So we have 2 people in this particular bubble, and all of us have issued at birth a remote control. Now, person number 1 has his remote control in his hand. If he wants to move forward, he presses the forward button. If he wants to stop, he presses the stop button. If he wants to go left, he goes left. If he wants a good day, he presses good day. If he wants a bad day, he presses bad day. Now, this person has his remote control inside his bubble and therefore is determined as having an internal locus of control. That means he believes he is completely in charge of his destiny, that everything he has is a result of everything he does. If he's not had a great day or he's not had a successful outcome, he believes that's because he perhaps didn't try as hard or he could have done better. Now, the other kind of person has their remote control on the outside of their bubble. Now, what this means is that if they have a good day, it's because some lovely person came along and pressed the good day button for them. If they had a bad day, it's because something or someone else came along and pressed the bad day button for them. They believe that most things happen by luck or by chance. These people tend to play the lottery or blame external circumstances for situations that happen to them in their particular lives. Now, this person has their remote control on the outside of their bubble and therefore have an external locus of control. Now, where this affects creating our professional purpose and our professional niche and the outcome that we want to have in our lives is because when an internal person, a person who believes that their life is the result of their own actions, presses the good day button, they get to actually experience their positive wins. They actually get to feel that positivity and that happiness. Whereas this person here doesn't really get to feel the positivity because it wasn't them who did it. It happened on the outside. Somebody else it happened for. Now, this person here is obviously far more likely to have a life that they desire than this one here. But we can often find ourselves acting in an external manner. When we find ourselves in this situation, when our life script is taking over, when our excuses are taking over, when our fears and emotions and internal barometer is taking over, all we need to remind ourselves to do is pop our hand outside that bubble and grab our remote control back. It's really that simple. All that you need to do to get your purpose coming to you in your hands and being experienced by yourself is to grab this control back. So the beauty of the power of taking back control is that it gives us the power of action. Now, talking about this situation of excuses and blaming our situation, our outcomes on our environment and the circumstances that happen to us brings me really nicely onto one of my own theories called the Efficacy Effect. Now, what's important about this is it really explains how important it is that we understand how much control we have over the outcomes that we experience. Now, one of the key things to remember here is that we have a choice 100% of the time over how we respond or react to the circumstances that happen to us. There are lots of things in our life that we cannot control. There are tons of situations that we can't do anything about in terms of them happening to us. But 100% of the time, we can choose how we're going to respond to that particular situation, which ultimately results in the outcome that we experience. Now, the effector is the event. It's the thing that happens to us, which then leads to us to have a certain set of beliefs or a mindset towards that particular situation or ourselves. For instance, say we have a relationship breakup. Perhaps we can sit there and think, well, wow, it's because I wasn't good enough. Perhaps I'm not a great partner. Or we could choose to think, well, that person wasn't good enough for me anyway. So it creates a certain set of beliefs. That then creates us to start behaving in a certain way. So if we're feeling quite confident and they weren't good enough for us anyway, normally we jump back on the horse and crack on with life. If it's because we felt like we weren't good enough, then perhaps our reaction might be to withdraw, to hide back, to become depressed, and to feel like we won't therefore be good enough for anybody. So our response, our behaviour towards that particular effector then actually starts being seen by other people. Our behaviour determines what people think of us. And so we start getting this feedback from other people. If we behave successfully, people will start to perceive us as successful. Therefore, it feeds our continuous actions of being successful, which creates the overall effect, the overall outcome. So we have this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy of the way we think affects the way that we behave, which then affects the way that we respond, and affects the way that people respond back to us, which then further increases the way we continue or discontinue to behave in accordance with that particular topic, situation, event, or circumstance. So whether this is negative or positive, it works in the same way. But ultimately, with the same point behind it of the end effect or outcome is 100% determinant by the way we think, the choice we have, the choice we choose to make, the decisions we make, and then the behaviours and actions that we put in place to then actualise the actual effect that we want. So this is exactly how your professional purpose and your business niche will start to come along. Make the effector something that you do. Choose something from the life audit list and actions you want to do as your effector. And start thinking, I'm going to make this happen, and behave, act in ways that are going to start making it happen according to your what is your 10 out of 10 criteria. You will get feedback from others, and that feedback may be that you need to iterate and change or adapt. It may be that you look up as you're on that journey, having learnt new information along the way, and start to create a more defined direction with that. It may be that the feedback is, wow, you're amazing at this, you should do it for a living. So this efficacy effect is really about how you create whatever it is that you're searching for, and that certainly counts for your business niche and purpose. Another way of finding out what your purpose and your niche actually is by looking back at your life and trying to figure out what it is that your life has actually been training for. I mentioned to you earlier about how this journey of finding out what our purpose is very much a progressive one, an evolutionary one. So let's not just look at now and what we're doing now and what we've learned over the last 12 months. Let's look at our entire lives. So here's another activity that I'd like you to do as part of watching this webinar. So if you're watching a recording, please pause or do this after you've watched this particular webinar. So create a timeline of your life. And you may like to do that year by year. You might like to break it down into 5-year sections or even 10-year sections. But the more detailed you can go, the smaller amounts of time you can break this into, the more effective it is at uncovering what life has been training you for. Now, your bad memories and your bad experiences are just as important as your good ones here. And I'd like to really make a point of that by this beautiful quote that I came across recently that really, really sums up how important negative experiences or seemingly negative experiences can actually be in creating the most beautiful side of you. And the quote is this: "For a seed to achieve its greatest expression, it must come completely undone. The shell cracks, its insides come out, and everything changes. To someone who doesn't understand growth, it would look like complete destruction." So look back, because sometimes your most painful experiences are the ones that have provided you with the most powerful insights, with the most strongest of skills and will and determination and guts, that if you pass that on to somebody else, could literally change their life. It's the journey and the experiences that you've been on. It's the things that you've been through, both good and bad, that are what justifies you and educates you and makes you worthy of being the person to pass that on to other people. What you've been through and what you know could, like I say, change somebody's life. So look back at your past and see it only as training and life evolving you into your final, most magnificent creation. So the next tip, and this is where we start taking some action. We've done some exploring now. We've started looking into what it is that we are, who we are, and where life has been taking us, and how to take back control so that we can start taking life and the experiences it's given us down the pathway of our perfect life of purpose. So one of the greatest things you can do next to start making this happen, even if you still don't know where you're going, is to write down 101 things that you know. 101 things you know how to do, 101 things you know about, 101 things you think other people should know, whether it's stuff you've seen on telly, read in a book, whether it's things you've learned about formally or informally, whether through your experiences it's just stuff that you just think other people should know about. It doesn't matter what topic it's in. Even if you're planning on becoming a builder, feel free to talk about some of the greatest philosophies you've ever heard of. Just literally write down and brainstorm and keep going. Don't stop at 101 if you can do more than that. Write down all of the things you know how to do. And then one by one, start teaching them. Now, when I first decided I wanted to be a professional speaker, I had absolutely no idea what my niche was. I had no idea what my specific topics for talking were going to be. I just knew that I roughly had to go in the direction of speaking. So this, by the way, isn't a tip just for people who want to be speakers or just for people who want to get out on stage and teach. But this is a really great technique for you to uncover what your particular specialization might be. Now, one of the things I did to find out what my topics might be was I simply took my smartphone, went down the local park, sellotaped it to a tree, and 1 hour a week for 10 weeks religiously, I just talked to the camera. Now, sometimes it was one of the topics that I'd written down from my 101 things that I knew how to do. Sometimes I literally just went to the park not having a clue what I was going to talk about. And what it did for me is a couple of things. But the most primary thing was that it showed me, watching those videos back, what things I naturally started to talk about. It also gave me clues as to who I was naturally talking to, because I didn't go there with any intention of who the audience was behind the lens I was looking down. I just talked. So this is a fantastic way for you to start to uncover what your preference is and who your audience tends to be. Are you talking to a group of people? Are you talking to one particular person? Are you talking to professionals? Are you talking to stay-at-home mums? That will become really evident if you just start talking. Now, one of the other great things to do to get immediate feedback, because feedback is part of the efficacy effect of creating a life of desired results, is to do this teaching and this talking live if you can. Now, for those of you who haven't heard of some fantastic live video streaming that's now available out there, one of them is called Periscope. Periscope is owned by Twitter. And if you have a Twitter account, just download the Periscope app on your phone. And essentially, just like doing a video, you press record, but instead of going into the memory on your phone, it actually streams out live to the world. So it can be daunting, but these people are strangers. Who cares? And what happens is they can actually give comments and love hearts and likes as you're talking. This is live feedback. It couldn't be more perfect. So just talk about anything. Talk about your topic. Talk to whoever you think you're talking to. And the people who enjoy that will start commenting and start giving you feedback. And that will essentially tell you whether or not you're on the right path, whether what you're talking about is interesting and helpful to your particular audience. You cannot get better market research than that. And you cannot explore more live than that. And by golly, will it help you build confidence in saying your message out loud. Simply articulating it for the first time will really, really help you word it and bring it out and bring it to life. You can then obviously take that to the next level. It can be a lot safer hiding behind the lens of a camera on the internet. It's in the safety of your living room than it is actually presenting in front of a group of people. Now, what I'm not saying is you have to go out and learn how to be a trainer or a presenter necessarily. This group of people might be your friends coming around for coffee. It may be just gathering a group of people together who might be in your target audience. It might be going to a network meeting. And start saying it out loud to your particular audience. Start saying, well, this is what I do, this is what my specialization is, this is how I help people. Because you only are that person when you start doing it and start saying it. So pass it on and start experimenting and playing with it, because every time you say it, you've moved a tiny bit further along your journey. You'll learn things, you'll iterate, and you'll begin to repurpose your purpose. Okay, so we've been talking enough now about uncovering what these skills might be and how we can start to explore and play with them. Let's now start doing some hardcore action planning. Now, I love this way of planning when you've got tons of thoughts in your head and things are all over the place. I've found that this is a great way, countless times, to really get yourself in focus and know what is it that I'm going to do next. So grab yourself a large sheet of paper. I highly recommend doing this on a big piece of paper. For some reason it just makes it feel easier. And right in the middle, I'd like you to put down what you think your direction is right now, what you think your goal is. When you've done that discovery of what your 10 out of 10 is, I'd like you to put that goal or that direction here in the middle, so you know what it is right now that you're aiming for. It might not be where you end up, but right now this feels like where you want to go. And I will then want you to pick 4 major projects. 4 major projects, major things that are going to start moving you in that direction. You know, that major project might be writing down your 101 things. It might be doing some videos on the camera. It might be learning to use the periscope. Whatever it might be for you, it might be going on a course. So just write down what your 4 major projects are going to be to help you get here. Once you've got your 4 major projects, I then want you to pick just 3 tasks that you can start doing to make those projects come to fruition. So just have your 1, 2, 3 tasks there, 1, 2, 3 tasks there, and so on. And that will now tell you exactly what you need to do next to make this happen. It helps you eliminate everything that's not necessary, everything that doesn't help you get to this particular destination. Don't do it. And it really helps you laser focus and, importantly, feel like you're really in control. And so my final tips to start uncovering your purpose and living your true business niche are these. First of all, that it's never too early to start charging. You will only ever be what you are. Meaning that if you say to yourself, well, I'm just going to start giving my services away for free until I've figured out kind of what I'm doing. Do you know what? If you're just the person that gives stuff out for free, that's all you are. That's all, you know, that's all you're living, that's all the messages that you're putting out there. You're not, if you start acting the professional and being the professional, because you're choosing things you already know how to do, allow your confidence to come out and shine. Like, you know this, you've got this, you've been training for it your whole entire life. Just start doing it. You know, you can reiterate, you can iterate along the way and change and progress and alter your course accordingly. Number 2, stop spending your time on things you can't control. Some things are controllable, some things are not. Think about what it is that you can do, what behaviours and actions you can put in place to move towards your particular destination. Don't sit there worrying or letting the things you can't do anything about stop you from having what you want. Remember that it's you and you alone that's 100% responsible for creating the boundaries of your life. You are the person holding the pen to your life script. It's up to you to rewrite it and up to you, importantly, to then go out and live it. Remember that as an entrepreneur or business owner, you are a tiny majority of the population. Apparently just 1% of the population go out there to start their own business, mainly because we have a unique set of abilities to sort of think futuristically, to see things that don't even exist yet so clearly that we're willing to risk everything to make them happen. The other 99% of the population cannot see that. And they are the people who will bring us down and question us and ask if we're mental and ask us about job security and income. These are the people that they don't mean to tear us down. They don't mean to be negative, but they just can't see what we can see as entrepreneurs. And therefore, make sure you actively go out of your way to spend time around the other 1%. around the other entrepreneurs and business owners, whether they are new, whether they are experienced, because we kind of get it. We all think the same, and we'll lift each other's energies and we'll guide each other, and we'll be constructive about criticisms with one another. So find the other 1% and hang out with those, and try not to let the 99% dumb down your enthusiasm and excitement to achieve wonderful things. Make sure that you are always moving. Make sure that you are always doing something. Remember, you don't have to know exactly where you're going, just make sure you're doing something. Regularly stop and assess where you're at. Regularly review and adjust your course if necessary. Do whatever you can with whatever you've got. You don't have to have a big budget to start a business. You don't have to have the perfect epiphany or the perfect idea. Use what you've got, do what you can, and control the behaviours and actions that you can to start making it happen. Remember that success doesn't happen overnight, and remember that it's not an end destination. Remember that it's a continuous journey, and it's something that you're always going to be working on. And finally, remember that because of that, your purpose will always and forever change, that it's going to constantly adjust, and that there will not be a time when you will know everything you need to know about where your life is going to go. Get comfortable with just being in the journey. Get okay with just simply exploring and learning and continuously moving along and gathering information. That's all you need to do to live a life of professional purpose. Now, I have actually created a course of over 15 videos, perhaps a few bonus ones as well, that will help you continuously find out and hash out what your particular purpose is. I've put together worksheets and activities as well as videos that really will help you uncover and unpack what your particular purpose is in your professional life and what your business niche is. Now, this particular pack is open right now for a very special offer for the next 12 hours only. Everybody watching this webinar can access that for just $97. It will be going up to full price after 12 hours has passed, so if you're interested in that and you've liked some of the things you've seen today, you'll absolutely love the 15 plus more techniques and tools that I have there for you. So click on the link that's been provided to you in your email, and you'll be able to get your hands on that, download your videos and your worksheets so that you can start moving forward today. Cannot wait to get you started. Thanks for joining.